The South Bronx is one of the poorest regions of New York City. It is chronically underdeveloped. There's very little job opportunities for people there. People there describe themselves as having been abandoned. You hear that word a lot when you talk to residents of the South Bronx. They feel they've been abandoned both by their government and by society at large in many ways. Citizens Energy is a nonprofit that was started by Joe Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy, of course, and that's a group that distributes fuel to low-income Americans at a 40% discount, which is a lifesaver to many people in this time of very high gas prices. This year, the program will distribute 100 million gallons of fuel to 400,000 American families, doubling the program scope from last year, and that's over 1 million people. The money from the Citgo Fuel Assistance Program is benefiting people in the United States in a variety of different ways. People in the Spofford Hills Housing Cooperative, which struggles every winter to make ends meet, but the fuel costs really push the limits of what the cooperative can afford. So there were a few days last winter where residents had to go entirely without heat and hot water, and people were just having to pile up on the blankets and do whatever they could. If you live in an apartment house in New York City where you're renting as a tenant, as many people do at the Mount Hope houses, the organizations that run the projects are able to put the money back into social programs to benefit the residents. Felix Rodriguez is definitely not your typical Houston oil magnate. He doesn't wear a suit. He was dressed in jeans and work boots when I met him. He's probably the only Texas oil man who you're going to hear use words like solidarity regularly in his conversation.
Citgo think you can make business and maintain the humanity.
He describes his mission with the company as really being about showing that a company can be both profitable and humanitarian. And the Venezuelan government's official explanation of what the program is all about is Venezuela wants to help poor Americans. It's a gesture of friendship. Of course, there is also a little more to it than that. Chavez's motivations with this program are very interesting. In part, it's an excellent opportunity for him to take a swipe at Bush, as he's famously prone to doing. You can say, look, the richest nation in the world is not helping poor people meet their basic needs, so they obviously require some foreign assistance. And that certainly makes a statement. After Hugo Chavez went to the United Nations and called President Bush a devil, the conservatives and some ordinary Americans as well were very upset, and this put the fuel assistance program under a bit more scrutiny. Jose Serrano is a congressman who represents the South Bronx, and he's come under a lot of fire for accepting this assistance on behalf of his constituents.
To those folks who will say that this is simply a form of President Chavez to score political points with the poor of the South Bronx, I say the following as the congressman from this area. I invite every American corporation that wants to score points with my community to start scoring points this afternoon.
Lots of people that I spoke with in the South Bronx were quite aware that the assistance was from Venezuela and did have a pretty good idea of what the Chavez government's vision was all about. Spofford Hills, the cooperative in the South Bronx, because it's a cooperative, people felt interested in Venezuela because so much of the Bolivarian Revolution has been about empowering people through cooperatives. What's so interesting about this is not just that it's a charity program and that it will make a lot of people's lives much better, but that it spreads the ideas of the Bolivarian Revolution right into the South Bronx, right into the United States, which is the model for capitalism all over the world. And, it interjects an idea that capitalism doesn't have to be run in this ruthless manner. I'm Liza Featherstone for Video Nation.